Hello again, fight fans. Welcome to the 10 Count. I'm Michael Montero, joined by Mike Baca for UCN Live and Doug Fischer for Ring TV. Guys, on December 10th in Omaha, Nebraska, Terence "Bud" Crawford is going up against John Molina. For Crawford, I think it's been a rather disappointing year or two. He kind of rose up the ranks, right? And he was seen as this top guy after beating Gamboa and having a really good year. I think that was 2014. And since then, he's kind of been inactive. Doug, is this fight a little bit of a letdown for you, this matchup, or are you excited to see Bud back in his hometown again?
Well, first of all, it's an interesting thing. You know, his last fight, he beat Victor Postol in a fight that a lot of pundits, myself included, sort of viewed as a 50-50 matchup.
Yeah, I think we all did.
They were the number 1 and 2, consensus, number 1 and 2 junior welterweights in the world. The winner unified the WBC and WBO titles at 140 pounds and also earned recognition by Ring Magazine. The vacant Ring Magazine junior welterweight title was on the line. So that's a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely.
However, the fight wasn't as entertaining as we had hoped, although I think Crawford reminded us what a splendid ring general he is and how much talent he really has. And it's saying something because this is a guy, it's not like he was an Olympian. It's not like he turned pro and was one of these blue chip prospects that everybody knew about and everybody was following all of his fights. I mean, he kind of emerged after beating Redis Prescott on some undercard. He sort of made an HBO broadcast by accident.
Yeah.
And then just the ball started rolling from there. But he's had kind of a quick emergence, and he doesn't have a high profile trainer either. So he's really showed us a lot. This guy is special. But having said that, the momentum from 2014, yeah, it's fallen off. That was a year in which he fought 3 times. That's a year in which he traveled abroad to win the lightweight title and defended it in his hometown and surprised a lot of people by being a huge draw in Omaha, Nebraska, in a Fight of the Year candidate against a Cuban Olympic gold medalist and a former title holder. So last year and this year, I think what's really plagued him is what plagued so many top fighters of this era: inactivity. He just hasn't fought enough, and for me, I wonder, is that a choice that he and his team has made, or is that just the landscape of boxing right now? Because a lot of the marquee names in junior welterweight and even welterweight are Al Heyman advised fighters, and until very recently, Bob Arum and Al Heyman were involved in a lawsuit, and they just were not going to play nice together. So you have to wonder if that's part of what's held him back. But I am happy that he's fighting again this year, because it was looking like he was only going to fight once this year. And Canelo Alvarez not being able to fight a 3rd time this year, and Gennady Golovkin not being able to fight a 3rd time in 2016 for different reasons. That's opened up the budget, HBO's budget, to make this fight. And I think John Molina is completely overmatched and outclassed in this fight, but Molina always brings it. He is somebody who's well known, and I'm just happy that Crawford gets to fight again and get some much needed exposure.
Yeah, Crawford is one of those fighters, one of those rare American fighters right now that has a regional fan base. And just like we talk about, it's important for Golovkin to fight multiple times a year because he sells out arenas and does ratings. So does Terence Crawford. And I guess I should have been a little more clear in my opening. It's not disappointing with his accomplishment. I think Crawford's clearly one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, probably top 5.
I think it's fair for you to say
but
that.
The momentum has been disappointing. And
it feels that way.
For you, is it important, in your opinion, that Crawford is one of those guys that fights 2 or 3 times a year for the betterment of boxing?
I can't believe you guys forgot about the Hank Lundy fight earlier this year. My boy Hank Lundy, one of my favorite fighters.
That's right.
So this is Crawford's 3rd fight.
The 3rd fight of the year. We did.
Well, there you
That's
go.
right.
So
what does that tell you, though?
I don't think
that we didn't remember. You know what?
And that was like in February, late February in the theater of Madison Square Garden.
And it was a great performance, I thought, from Crawford. But you talked about the Postol fight. That was a very, very good accomplishment. Clearly, he's the best 140 pounder.
You know what I think kind of hurt that fight?
It
was on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I forgot that it was pay-per-view,
exactly.
and that was a big part of that story. And that goes back to exposure. How many people paid to
Exactly.
watch that live? How many folks who were into that fight heard that the fight was not that exciting, and then may have even skipped the HBO replay?
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
already knowing the result and hearing, hey,
Exactly.
Crawford just, outclassed him.
I think Crawford is one of the very few fighters that can beat Manny Pacquiao today.
I agree.
I agree.
And I think they were discussing Crawford-Pacquiao for later this year. And I think the disappointment of that fight not coming together is why maybe you're not excited for Crawford-Molina. Granted, Molina did have a good win against Provodnikov in June.
Right.
Very impressive. I did not expect him to do that. Outboxed Provodnikov, boxed his ears off.
I didn't see that coming.
Made Provodnikov look human, because there was a few fights there where he didn't look human. Molina does have that eraser. Let's not forget it. He has that strong punching power, so there is that factor, but whether or not he could land it, I don't think he can against Crawford, because like you said, his ring generalship is
He's one of the
top
best
notch.
ring. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would maybe put Lomachenko ahead of him, but there's not a lot of guys.
If Postol couldn't land that
Andre
right,
Ward, he's right up there.
if Postol couldn't land that right hand, I don't think Molina can land his
Well,
hook.
think about what we're saying. We're saying Crawford is close to being the same ring general as Lomachenko, a two-time Olympic gold medalist, and Andre Ward, an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, he really is kind of a special story. Having said that, one of the things that really shocked me in Molina's performance against Provodnikov was his boxing discipline, his jab. This is one of these guys that trainer hops a lot, jumps around from trainer to trainer. He's finally found somebody in Shadid Saluki who's brought out boxing talent that nobody thought was there. Or I'll speak for myself. I didn't think it was there. I thought he was a tough kid who had the proverbial eraser and was that typical puncher who lived or died by the sword. It's kind of interesting to see a guy with that mentality do a little bit of fencing. Doesn't have the big, heavy broadsword. It's, with a foil in there and using that left to set up the right hand. Let's see what happens against Crawford. And here's one thing I do like about Crawford. If you are there to be hit and you are game and Molina's game, Crawford's a mean son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He will punish your ass, especially if you talk a little crap in the build-up to the fight.
Yeah, he seems though. It is kind of funny you bring that up. Before his last few fights, he kind of wants to hate his opponent.
Oh yeah,
he finds reasons.
I think it brings out the best of him.
I love it. As a writer, I love that.
He's a surly cat
because he's generally a very quiet, soft-spoken guy. But when it comes to his opponent, he'll talk some shit, and I like that shit.
He's all business in there, especially in Omaha. I think in front of his hometown fans, I think Molina, you were talking about his improved craft. I think he's a guy who's learned on the job. But I think at some point in the middle rounds, he might get in Crawford's ear a little bit and talk a little smack or do something that Terence doesn't like.
Well,
and
listen,
then Bud will
if you're John
get in his
Molina,
ass.
you want that.
Yeah.
You want your opponent to be mad at you. You want your opponent to be overconfident. You want your opponent to open up on you. He doesn't want the version of Crawford that was moving around the ring against Victor Postol. He wants that pissed off Crawford because that gives him that opportunity to land that punch. And those are some of his biggest wins were against guys that got greedy offensively, or maybe they just felt that they had the fight in the bag. And I'm referring to his come from behind knockouts of Hank Lundy and Mickey Bay. Those were fights where his opponents thought they had the fight in the bag. And going back to the Lundy fight, Lundy was trying to take it to him. And that's when he got clipped, and then everything changes.
With Crawford and Molina coming together, a lot has been made about Al Heyman and Bob Arum making peace. But this isn't exactly one of the PBC's top premier fighters.
Not an A-lister.
Are you guys believing that this unity between Arum and Heyman is the real deal?
No.
Okay.
Never.
Not with this fight until they bring up something like a Oscar Valdez Leo Santa Cruz fight. Then I'll believe it.
Yeah, because Molina has been an opponent within the PBC universe. Right. He was unveiled as an opponent for Adrian Broner. He was supposed to be the opponent for Provodnikov.
Yeah, exactly.
That Heyman doesn't even promote.
Yep.
So he stayed within his role. It's just the promoter has changed.
Yeah,
Well,
they're kind of playing money. They're kind of betting with the dealer's hand.
absolutely. With Terence Crawford, I think he's obviously the heavy favorite here. If he comes away with the victory, I kind of see him as a guy like Gennady Golovkin, where he's looking for that big dance partner to get him over the hump, because this guy should be a big, big star. He has the talent, right? Born right in the middle of the country, has that great fan base there. The environment in Omaha at his fights is almost like a college football game. You feel like you're at a Nebraska football game, right? What fights can realistically happen? Can that Pacquiao fight happen? Are there any of the PBC guys at welterweight, if Terence will make the jump and go to 147, can any of those fights happen?
Well, Terence was the one of two names that was brought up to Manny Pacquiao over the weekend, along with Floyd Mayweather. So certainly he's in the running for Manny Pacquiao.
I think Pacquiao is his launch pad into stardom. Whether or not it happens next year, I don't know. But I do think that's a realistic fight, and I do think he's in the running. Maybe he's the consolation prize, or maybe if for some reason the Mayweather-Pacquiao rematch can't be made, that's what Arum does, because it's helpful for him and his company for that Pacquiao torch to be passed to one of his own fighters. And Crawford has a lot of potential and a very bright future.
All the more reason for Mayweather-Pacquiao to not happen. There you have it, fight fans. Let us know what you think. Comment below, like, share, subscribe. For Mike Baca and Doug Fischer, I'm Michael Montero. We'll see you next time on 10 Count.